Flames licked the night sky above Kyoto, painting the clouds a molten crimson. Down in the streets, even veteran samurai paused, gripping their hilts a little tighter. Everyone knew that Ridge, Mount Hiei, was holy ground, crowned for 8 centuries by the monastery of Enryaku-ji. Tonight it roared like a forge, and at the foot of that inferno, arms folded, eyes reflecting embers, stood Oda Nobunaga. The warlord who believed fear could carve history faster than any sword had just aimed that fear at heaven itself, the Fool of Owari. Nobunaga wasn't born to gentle expectations. As a youth, he earned the nickname the Fool of Owari for his unruly dress and habit of carrying matchlock guns instead of lacquered fans. But behind the rough edges lay a mind that saw feudal Japan like a shogi board. Every piece expendable, every rule negotiable. Most Sengoku rulers tiptoed around religion. Nobunaga plowed straight through it. From the moment he muscled into Kyoto in 1568, he treated priests like governors in fancy robes, taxing their lands and auditing their armies. Enryaku-ji worried him the most. Behind incense and sutras lived thousands of Sohei, warrior monks famous for descending on Kyoto with naginata flashing whenever politics displeased them. One chronicle swears they once forced an emperor to abdicate simply by marching around the palace, chanting sutras loud enough to shake the shutters. Historians still debate whether a teenage humiliation lit Nobunaga's fuse. A fragmentary letter claims that, at 16, he rode to Kyoto seeking an audience and found the monastery gates slammed in his face until he produced lavish toll donations. True or not, the story circulated in his camp, turning monk toll-keepers into bullies who had mocked the future conqueror. Every retelling piled tinder beneath the mountain, the final straw. But why risk turning the country's spiritual heart against him? According to an imperial diary entry from 1569, Enryaku-ji priests blessed Azai warriors before their surprise strike on Nobunaga's rear guard. If the monks call down Buddha against me, he is reported to have scoffed, then I will answer with fire. Historians still debate whether the blessing ever happened, yet the rumors spread like wildfire through Nobunaga's camp, and rumors in Sengoku Japan killed as quickly as arrows. In early autumn 1571, Nobunaga sent a final ultimatum. Disband your militant corps, swear neutrality, or face consequences. The high priests responded with silence, trusting centuries of inviolability to protect them. Few expected what came next: fire on the mountain. On the 19th day of the 9th lunar month, 3 Oda divisions seeped into Mount Hiei's cedar forests before dawn. Among the commanders rode Akechi Mitsuhide, a scholar general who quoted Chinese poetry between battles. Soldiers felled trees across hidden tracks, blocking escape. Outposts vanished without a shout. Witnesses recalled only the soft thump of feet on pine needles and the hiss of torches being unwrapped. Nobunaga arrived at dusk. Staring up at gilded pagodas catching the last light, he is said to have murmured, "Burn it all." What followed resembled a volcanic eruption timed with human cruelty. Firebrands arced through temple windows. Oil jars smashed, feeding pillars of flame. Bells, great bronze giants that once greeted dawn meditation, cracked in furnace heat. Monks who resisted were cut down. Those who fled met spears along blocked trails. Novices, pilgrims, even children perished as tile roofs collapsed in roaring avalanches of sparks. By sunrise, smoke drifted south in greasy ribbons. Kyoto's nobility understood 2 facts. First, the old rule, shrines are untouchable, was ash. Second, Nobunaga's ambition had no ceiling. Courtiers whispered a new name, Mao, the Demon King, the aftermath. Tactically, the strike worked. Enryaku-ji had guarded toll roads and commanded ridgelines overlooking Kyoto's heart. A military map shows cannons placed on Hiei could have shelled Nobunaga's mansions. Now, the threat lay in cinders. Rival clans lost a critical ally, and trade caravans rolled untaxed along routes once squeezed by monk checkpoints. Nobunaga had knocked the queen off the shogi board with 1 match. But victory came soaked in dread. Akechi Mitsuhide, a devout Buddhist who had watched innocent families burn, began to wonder whether he served a unifier or a beast. Letters to his mother suddenly begged prayers to cleanse the smoke of sin. Buddhism recoiled, and peasants muttered that hell would claim anyone marching under the Demon King's banner. Suspicion is a mold. It spreads unseen until the beam snaps. Over the next decade, Nobunaga's star only brightened. He crushed the Azai at Anagawa, annihilated Takeda cavalry with musket volleys at Nagashino, and spoke openly of ruling all Japan. Each triumph reminded Mitsuhide of Mount Hiei's embers. He had learned how far his lord would go, and feared how far he might yet order others to follow. Akechi Mitsuhide, the betrayal sparked on Mount Hiei. Here's the bitter irony. Akechi Mitsuhide, the man who helped lead the siege against Enryaku-ji, would one day kill Nobunaga. 16 years after the mountain burned, Mitsuhide turned his army against his lord in the infamous Honnoji incident. He caught Nobunaga off guard, surrounded the temple where he was resting, and forced him to commit seppuku. Why? Historians still debate. Some say political rivalry, others personal grievances. But a common thread runs through many theories: the horror of Mount Hiei. Mitsuhide was known to be deeply spiritual. Some sources claim he never forgave himself for participating in the massacre. Others say he feared what Nobunaga might become if unchecked. In the end, the fire Nobunaga lit on Mount Hiei may have set the path to his own death, the death of the Demon King. Trade guilds linked to Tendai temples halted rice shipments into Oda domains, sparking shortages. Ming envoys recorded unease. Could a man who slew monks be trusted at the negotiation table? Jesuit missionaries, once welcomed, found their letters intercepted by officials worried that any creed might rally resistance. Nobunaga shrugged. Fear was working, but fear cuts both ways. June 21st, 1582. Nobunaga stopped at Kyoto's Honnoji temple with a modest guard, planning to join his main army against the Mori. Dawn was still gray when drums thundered outside the gates. Mitsuhide's troops, comrades from Mount Hiei, now encircled the complex. "The enemy is at Honnoji," he cried, twisting Nobunaga's own famous rallying shout. Inside, the Demon King glimpsed the mirror of his deeds. As arrows thudded into shoji doors, he set the temple ablaze and performed seppuku, dying in the same element he had unleashed on the monastery, a legacy cut short. Did Hiei cause the rebellion? Motives braid together: lost lands, court insults, fear of execution. Yet every strand threads through that night of sacred slaughter. It cleaved Mitsuhide's conscience, alienated Buddhist networks that could have warned Nobunaga, and taught the realm that moral lines existed only for those too timid to cross them. Mitsuhide reaped no reward. 11 days later, Toyotomi Hideyoshi crushed him at Yamazaki, rallying his army with a cry, "Remember Mount Hiei." The mountain thus opened and closed the Demon King's saga. Nobunaga's legacy is not simple villainy. By smashing militant monasteries, he cleared the road for civil administration, unified tax codes, and a national market that later Tokugawa shoguns would refine. Modern scholars call him an iron catalyst. Without his ruthless heat, Japan's feudal ore might never have melted into a single blade. Yet, climb Hiei at dawn and you feel the cost. Mist blankets silent cedars where screams once rose. Rebuilt pagodas gleam, but foundation stones still bear charred edges, preserved on purpose. Visitors leave folded cranes by the scorched rock. Prayers for both victims and perpetrator, acknowledging the tangled braid of faith, fear, and power. So, when ambition tempts us to burn every obstacle, remember the Lord who torched a mountain and lit the fuse of his own destruction. Greatness won by fire can end in smoke, and the ashes always blow back on the hand that struck the match. Thanks for hacking the past with us. If today's hidden chapter blew your mind, tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss our next deep dive. Drop your theories in the comments, share the video with fellow time travelers, and we'll see you in the next heist through history.